Hey, surprise everybody, happy Friday. Turns out I forgot to let you all know in my last week's video that tomorrow I'm leaving to Mexico until March 3rd. I get back late that Sunday night, so chances are I might not be able to make a video until the 10th of March. Now, I am bringing my laptop because I'm going to work remotely for a bit. I'm not bringing my mic, other tools, but if I'm able to make a video, I might. But I'm not making any promises. So here I am with an impromptu this week in cannabis news, and so we're going to skip the usual spiel. This is not advice, as always. If you enjoy and you learn something, like the videos. And subscribe below if you want to learn more about how this great American state-led growth story has unfolded thus far. As another week passes, we get that much closer to this tension finally being released. And so, while it seemed like a quiet week in the news, we start globally as Boris shared German lawmakers officially put cannabis legalization vote on next week's agenda. So this is from Marijuana Moment. That link will be in the comments. Ronnie Ferrari, good to see you back. Any updates? Well, Boris telling it to us straight, as he typically does, despite politicians always moving the goalposts, which we can't control. And so take what he says with a grain of salt, but all I can say is what I've been saying since September of last year. My view is that if rescheduling happens this year, it will be announced no later than the end of April, so plan accordingly for your own situation. That is my intelligence. I know better than most the frustration investors are feeling. We are close. And so take from that what you will. Just wanted to share this one from Do the Right Thing. Massive Germany news. The vote to decriminalize cannabis has been placed on the calendar for February 21st, with the law taking effect on April 1st. Now, I'm just sharing what Do the Right Thing and, again, what I find are the most credible sources online sharing. Now, he did share this as well down here saying, correction, looks like this is just for the Finance Committee voting. Still moving along, though. Deadline for submitting February 21st. Draft law on the controlled handling of cannabis and the change for the regulation. So, take from that what you will. Great post here, Quailman. But the UN Treaty. He's echoing me, which I often harp on. But also, this came this past week from Marijuana Moment. Moving cannabis to Schedule 3 would not violate international treaties, legal opinion says. Oh, well, that makes me feel a whole lot better about the situation. Like, on top of all the kept promises from politicians over the last however many years. And so while there's plenty of reason to doubt, it does seem inevitable with all the momentum. And while there's plenty of evidence as to why we ought to abolish the DEA and get rid of any stupid, outdated treaties like the 1961 UN Single Drug Convention that was founded and based completely in racist political science and bullshit, not fact or reality. It's wild because it all seems to be coming together, and just when you thought the web couldn't get more complex and intertwined, interestingly enough, Zelensky signs bill legalizing medical cannabis in Ukraine. Pretty fresh, 23 seconds ago. It said that the last time I refreshed it. Yeah, so this is, anyways, don't even know if I want to trust this, but this is the news that was pushed out of the propaganda machine. And so this is apparently coming in as early as 2024, although we're already in 2024. But get where this gets interesting. The bill also allows for the cultivation of medical cannabis in Ukraine, but this will take a number of years to establish, with a domestic supply not expected until 2028 at earliest. Well, who's going to supply the market then? In the next 6 months after the publication of the law, the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine and the Ministry of Health must develop all necessary bylaws, but it will be possible to import cannabis medicines into Ukraine. Wonder where they're going to import, and it seems like they want to go the Germany route. And then this also just found it odd. Today we have 100% confirmation that the possibility for a medical cannabis market in Ukraine exists. Of course, if you create the conditions for it, what we must do now is create the market. And so obviously they're doing what we've known you can do all along, change the laws when you realize they're horseshit. And guess who pledges to support Ukraine and supply medical cannabis? Germany. And so take this with a grain of salt because we've next to no details and we'll need to wait for more follow-up reporting on this. But if this does check out over time, leads us to believe that the state-led growth story could be a whole lot bigger and global than we could have even comprehended. And fun fact, it's kind of crazy to think that had Zelensky done the right thing and signed that peace deal in 2022, they might not have gotten legal cannabis. And so it's so wrong to think that, but that's why we can't have nice things, because politicians just ruin everything. Because if he would have signed it, America would have stopped funding him, and he wouldn't have had this excuse. And so, brutal. So full link in the comments. And on top of that, interestingly enough, Germany has now surpassed Japan to take over as the world's third largest economy behind the United States and China, according to Bloomberg. So take from that what you will. Evan, 389,000 followers, tweeting that out. And so Bloomberg is the source there. But with that, on to some studies as to why prohibition should have ended 50 years ago. PubMed, daily associations with cannabis use and sleep quality in anxious cannabis users. This one fairly fresh as of March 3rd, 2024, from the future when I get back from Mexico. Conclusions. Among individuals with affective symptoms, naturalistic use of cannabis was associated with better sleep quality, particularly for those using edible and CBD dominant products. I bet the over-the-counter sleep market hates that. And so more in the comments if you want to go through that. This link from PubMed. Well, we got this one from NDPI, unveiling the potential of cannabinoids in multiple sclerosis and the dawn of nano-cannabinoid medicine. That sounds wild. 2024, February 7th looks like. And so abstract, again, pause to read for more detail. I want to try and get through this video quick because it's getting late and I'm tired. But in conclusion, cannabinoids exhibit potential as a disease-modifying treatment rather than merely symptomatic relief. Get that. Rather than just being a symptomatic relief, there's potential as a disease-modifying treatment. Holy shit. It's deschedule already. Full link in the comments. If you didn't like that one from Normal, daily consumers become tolerant to cannabis' psychomotor influencing effects. What do you know? The functional stoner explained as we do more studies from Colorado. Daily cannabis consumers exhibit fewer changes in performance than do those who use it less frequently, according to data published in the Journal of Cannabis Research. So I'll put that link in the comments, but get this. Consistent with prior research, the study's authors concluded in 2 of the tablet-based tasks, the occasional use group performs slower reaction time task or less accurately memory task from before to after smoking as compared to daily use and no use groups, consistent with daily cannabis use resulting in tolerance to the acute effects of cannabis. But this is the most interesting I found. In the gap acceptance task, the daily use group took longer to complete the task after smoking cannabis while at the same time increasing their success ratio. So slower but better quality. What do you know? Read it and weep. So full link in the comments. Well, from NDTV, this actually just summarizes one of the more scientific ones that I put in my last week's video. Apparently, cannabis kills cancer cells, finds study. And that's what the scientific language was basically trying to describe. So more here if you wanted to pause to read or learn about that. Full link in the comments if you want to learn more. But with that, on to an update from Don Murphy in DC. So thank you, Don, for the work that you do on the ground and for sharing it with us. Glad to hear that after a tough start to the week, things are looking up. So,
good afternoon, Twitter friends. Don Murphy from the steps of the Russell Building on the Senate side. The Senate is out today, next week, and the House is out next week as well. So this will be my last update for a bit. But there is good news. The story that you read in Politico is consistent with my conversations with Congressman Luetkemeyer.
Huge.
So safe banking is moving ahead. Sorry for getting a little cranky this morning.
Would have thunk it.
But I've just witnessed too much incompetence from the industry and the advocates to stay quiet today. And we could have had success sooner rather than later if we hadn't had so much nonsense to deal with. So anyway, y'all take care. Have a great weekend. Things are looking up from my perspective, and I hope you feel the same.
I hope you all feel the same, and we all feel you, Don. Unfortunately, for some reason, the cannabis crowd and the Marxist crowd seems the government's really trying to push them together, and they don't need to go together. But that's where the DEI focus on social equity, which is equal outcomes, why New York was such a shit show, or why Schmuck has been waiting to add social justice provisions to a bill for votes when he could have passed the bill as was to actually do what was needed to provide the banking to the industry and help the small mom and pop shops that they got the votes for. We've been facing this reality for the last 3 years, right? And so the fact that Don is even optimistic after having to get a little spicy and share his attitude, that's what we're all hopeful for going forward. So to further prove my point, Don tweeted this earlier. I guess this is how he got spicy. Cannabis policy reform, including safe banking, has been blocked by people who are more concerned with the relative few on the supply side who might benefit financially, sound like Marxists, from a post-prohibition world, and not on the millions, if not arrested, fellow human beings on the demand side who benefit, especially from the medicine, the rec, all that. And so, Sammy J, Don, assuming you mean safe, still being held up by Schmuck because he wants to add social justice crap to it and doesn't have the votes. Well, we know he's had the votes for years. Don's confirmed that since last year. Reforms, including SAFE, have been blocked in the past by those who see legalization as a chance to load up any bill with things that don't matter to the general public consumer patient. That's what we've seen in New York. That's what we've seen in all these social equity experiments, and we want to get away as far away from that as possible. We are getting through that now, though. These delays were self-inflicted, and you hate for that to be the case, but that's usually how it is with that ideology. And so, fortunately, moving forward, as Nats Fertig, Don Murphy confirmed this source, so we're going to jump into this story quickly, but Rep. Blaine Luetkemeyer told her Wednesday that negotiations over Section 10 of the Safe Banking Act are down to just the few last words, which in politics speak, or Nats' propaganda speak, sounds like, I'm supposed to get the message out that things are going to get moving again soon. And so take from that what you will. It seems like that's where we're finally at, though. Luckily, GreenWave advisors could be the reason for Schedule 3 delay, Plus, maybe we see FinCen update and Garland memo concurrent with the EA decision. Would that be too much to ask? Would make sense, but then again, we've seen so much crap for so long that we're pretty much numb to it, right? So keep your faith, folks, as we move through. Now, wanted to just share this from Do the Right Thing because I think this is worth noting as the change of heart has come pretty swiftly. Getting the approval from Rep. Blaine Luetkemeyer is a big deal for potential House passage of safer banking. Rep. Luetkemeyer on September 26th. As it's currently written, it is dead on arrival in the House. That was however many months ago. Today, I'm at a place I'm comfortable with it. And so take from that what you will, whether you're optimistic or not. A few other stories to share if you're interested from the American Bar Association. Safer Banking Act. Cannabis may soon become a bigger deal. Why would they be writing this if that wasn't going to be the case, right? And so there's a lot here. I'm not going to spend too much time going through it because it's pretty damn dry. But I wanted to take you down to one part where I think this is worth reading if you wanted to pause. Will financial institutions be required to serve the cannabis industry? It's usually the case where, no, they will not be required to, but it's going to be easier for them to do that. And then there was a few other spots in here that I wanted to try and highlight, but I think this is it. The FinCen guidance then details the following requirements for financial institutions if, again, the Safe Banking Act were to go into play. If the Safer Banking Act passes, this guidance will be required to be updated within 1 year of its date of enactment. And so let's say Boris is right and this all gets done before April, then that means possibly uplisting by April 2025. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, it's wishful thinking. I'm thinking out loud here. But regardless, this wouldn't be written up if there wasn't likely something possibly coming. So let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I'm not trying to get everyone excited and trying to pump the story either. It's just we've been waiting a long time and it seems like it's finally here. Well, from BNN Breaking, this I found as I was just getting this video ready. Rescheduling cannabis and the Safer Banking Act, a new era for cannabis businesses. Lots of more stories covering it, so it seems like it's going to be the play. So more here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, full link in the comments. But with that, we're going to keep moving. So from week 2 420, interest for MSOS is rising again in Google Trends. We like to see that continuing to go up as opposed to going down, despite the pullback in share prices, which again was healthy based on the rapid growth that we did see a month back, but reached new highs at 83% interest compared to September 2023 peak. So love to see that continuing to head upwards. Well, just a reminder that the shorts are nuts. Again, maybe they know something we don't, but let's hope they're making a massive mistake. And ultimately, they're just going to flip long, most likely, when push comes to shove. But just a reminder that short interest is making all-time high pending Schedule 3 announcement, and now possibly safe banking too. That's a recipe for an epic squeeze. And so try to enjoy yourselves, folks, over the next few weeks as this plays out. It's out of our control. But it seems as if the stage continues to be set day after day, week after week. And so to share some state stories, We Drink Sky is a February 13th highlighting that Americans want legal cannabis, even if it's the shitty Delta 8 derivative kind from hemp, as our total wine and more tally is a reminder they're in Minnesota, Connecticut, Texas, and Louisiana. And pretty wild that we're never going to see the financials for these companies because technically there's no legal regulated markets. They don't have to have any. That's the horse shit. And so while that's going to hopefully change things fairly quickly as those floodgates open, good news is that in other legal markets, Missouri sells $1.3 billion in cannabis during first rec year. You love to see it as there's been significant growth and change in the industry over the past year. That's what happens when you take the handcuffs off and you let the American way flourish. The state averaged nearly $4 million in cannabis sales per day. That is around $1.3 billion cannabis sales in 2023. As millions of dollars in money made from cannabis tax revenue is going to veterans, public defenders, and programs to combat addiction. You love to see it. This is how you do it right. You end cannabis prohibition and you put this money back into the legal market, create jobs, and hopefully just redistribute the resources in the right way. While this one from New Mexico has cannabis sales over $500 million, big business even in small towns. Main reason I wanted to share it, while I did share their recent January 2024 sales figures in my last video, I thought this was a pretty impressive stat reporting. As of Jan 2024, the total sales since legalization is $962,127,754. And so how soon will they get to $1 billion? Not necessarily sure, but seems like more people are talking about the buzz that we've been talking about here for years. So you love to see that. Well, from connoisseurs.io, Connecticut cannabis sales, including January 2024. Thanks, connoisseurs, for putting these all together. And so sales figures comparatively year over year, 15.6 million this year compared to 5.1 last year. 9.3 med this year compared to 8 mil last year. 24.9 total this year compared to 13.1. Americans want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars. enough said. And so you love to see it. Here's the chart if you want to take a look. While moving along, just wanted to highlight all the catalysts from MJ Stock Trader. Cannabis stocks have 4 potential catalysts in the short term. Florida Supreme Court has until April 1 to decide the rec ballot for November. DeSantis went on record saying he thinks it gets approved, and that's a big deal. 2, Germany should vote to legalize adult use in February with enactment in April, so long as they keep their words. And while they've moved the goalpost already in the past, the pressure's building, and they ought to act, and hence why they're supposed to be acting, right? Hope they do it. And the DEA rescheduling decision could drop any day now. And then safer banking appears to be gaining traction again. This is a lot. And it's coming. Rescheduling from 1 to 3 is a game changer, removing 280E, normalizing banking, low interest, debt, and credit card use, and leads to uplisting to the NASDAQ. Eventually, once safer passes, based on what we read in this one of these things that I shared with you not too long ago. Massive institutional capital. Soon, folks. Patience. And so, from Cannabis Business Times, deadlines from senators don't matter, apparently, as DEA Attorney General missed deadline to respond to the 12 senators on cannabis rescheduling. That was supposed to be Monday. So we were looking out on Monday to see if a letter from senators mattered. Clearly it didn't. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, full link in the comments. But the good news is that senators don't stop tweeting about it. Now they're putting out videos. Even Elizabeth Warren is going on talk shows, Stephen Colbert, and, spewing the rhetoric. And we need that to at least get the catalysts going and stir the pot real good. So the only MSO news of this week, Verano expands Pennsylvania retail footprint with the opening of Zenleaf Norristown, the company's 118th affiliated Pennsylvania dispensary and 138th retail location nationwide. Definitely beneficial for them if PA finally goes rec sooner than later, but just more here if you wanted to pause to read. Anyone that's interested in Verano, if you're already a shareholder in Verano, learn more about what they're doing in Pennsylvania and how this new dispensary will help them, why they want to build their footprint there early, while it seems like Pennsylvania medical cannabis players like Verano, putting those dispensaries down now, will be able to kick off rec once that is officially given the green light. And so in this yearly budget, again, he put cannabis in it, but requires the lawmakers to actually create legislation that's going to pass. And so that's a whole different story. I don't know why this is so Juicy heavy, probably because Juicy paid for it. Who knows? I'm just thinking out loud. I could be wrong. But so more here if you wanted to pause to read just about what Pennsylvania is expecting. But I'll just update you once the legislation comes out, and hopefully that does happen. Cannabis Business Times update: Virginia House passes bill to legalize adult use cannabis sales. Go Virginia House. And so still more hurdles to go through, but could launch as soon as Jan 1st, 2025 if lawmakers put forward a bill Rep. Gov. Glenn Youngkin supports. And so more here if you're interested. But again, nice hurdle passed, more hurdles to go, and we'll update you as we get closer to something actually happening there. But wanted to share one state doing the right thing by its citizens in following the Second Amendment, as Maryland Senate Committee approves bill to protect medical cannabis patients' gun rights under state law. Now, I'm not going to get into the story much. You can pause to read or grab the links if you're interested, but just highlighting one state doing it right, following the Second Amendment, and respecting the rights of its citizens. But at the same time, we've got another state that is trying to do the opposite, and it's again Kirsti Noem. When the people of South Dakota voted to legalize rec cannabis in 2020, she reversed it, saying that she knew better than the people. And the fact that that stood still boggles my mind to this day. Couldn't imagine. I would have left South Dakota right away. But even now, South Dakota governor signs bill requiring medical cannabis patients to acknowledge federal gun ban. And so I will admit I didn't read into the details. I just wanted to share the two side by side to highlight one doing it right while one is shitting the bed. And ultimately, it's just, again, doesn't sound good, and it's targeting cannabis consumers, or especially cannabis patients that need it for their medicine, and discriminating against them, much like cannabis was used to discriminate against black people in the past. And it's just, you got to stop this. And why are they trying to introduce policy that normalizes it and allows it, right? It's horseshit. And so anyways, full link in the comments if you want to go through that. As Georgia's medical cannabis industry update, and while it's very fresh and young, thank you Connoisseurs.io for putting this together. It's my first time coming across this. Ultimately, a quick snapshot of the Georgia market thus far in its infancy. Only 14,207 patients as of Jan 2024. Nice to see Trulieve basically in every part of the industry in the state. And so hence why I like seeing that as a shareholder. More here if you wanted to pause to read. Well, apparently the source is Georgia Access to Medical Cannabis Commission annual report to the Georgia General Assembly. That link will be in the comments, along with all the other ones if you wanted to just check the sources. While New Jersey governor marks huge milestone for state's cannabis market with over 100 dispensaries now open. Oh, what a loser. It could be so much better. And yes, no doubt, it's a huge milestone. Regulators announced that more than 100 medical and adult use cannabis shops are now open across the state. So considering 100 adult use cannabis shops, sounds like it's saying that, 100 medical and, so they'd be 100 medical that can sell adult use. Good for them, but like make it 1,000, make it a lot more, right? It says exactly 102 have now opened, just under 2 years since we launched. Yay, we did it. Undoubtedly a major milestone. And so, yeah, again, just keep going with it. Open a lot more. Well, South Carolina Senate expected to pass medical cannabis bill. And so this is, again, in the early stages, much like we saw in Virginia. Basically, the bill that was dead technically 2 years ago is now headed to the House. If it passes through the House and is signed by the Gov, it could make South Carolina the 39th state to legalize medical cannabis. Not bad. Love to see it. Full link in the comments. Well, last one from Arizona. Not last one. We got a few more. But Arizona lawmakers approved bill to allow interstate cannabis commerce. Another state doing something strange as if they know something's coming that we, the common folk, don't. I don't know, but they join California, Oregon, Washington State, a lot of West Coast states. I believe there were others that have done this too, but again, take from that what you will. I'm not exactly sure what to think. I hope we get a surprise descheduling somehow, some way. But let me know in the comments what you think. Otherwise, full link below if you wanted to read more. Well, last few stories, I forget what I even put here. But to round it off, oh yeah, we had to end with New York because imagine that. As New York lawmakers are trying to fix the problematic cannabis program by continuing to employ the people that created a problematic cannabis program. You cannot make this shit up. Oh, so MJ Stock Trader says it brilliantly. The dumbest, most corrupt people run New York. Gov Kathy Hochul and the other incompetent morons simply have to enforce the fucking law and stop restricting the legal market. They're literally the kids trying to force the square into a round hole and then moving on to the triangle when the round toy is right in front of them. That is a very good metaphor for what watching New York has felt like for the last 3 years. It had so much potential. And I just want to say that if any of you are choosing to live dangerously like me with a large percentage of your portfolio, because wealth is not made by diversifying. No, it's made by putting all your eggs in one basket and watching that basket fucking closely and ensuring it's the right basket. And so I salute you if you have a lot of your portfolio in cannabis, because this is only going to happen once. And all that to point out, hey, maybe more overexposed than we need to be, but this is going to be a hell of a lesson to learn. And again, I say this a lot, but as a young investor, I'd rather learn this while I'm young and have the experience for when I do get older. And you love to see that 74% of investors are either overexposed or underexposed, and I'm definitely in that over 75, while 76 have been investing in the sector for over 4 years. And so we've seen some shit. We've seen some cycles, and we're holding out because we know how big this is going to be. And I love the comments because ultimately it does validate our thesis. This is the real cannabis rally, the American version of what happened in Canada, and it's going to be big. And so again, to let's say, let's just hope that 420 is 76% of you 535. To you soldiers out there with diamond hands, I salute you. Let's get this money, folks. I don't know about you, but I do hope I've got something to celebrate while I'm gone in Mexico. That way you might see my face a little bit sooner than expected. But that is it for today's episode. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos. And I will catch you March 10th or possibly sooner. Who knows? But until then, take care. Have a good one.